to another episode of Hiding Behind the Pages with Elite Speakers. I'm your co-founder, Talk to Tracy Brooks.
And I am your co-founder, Shakitha Owens.
And we would like to encourage you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also, go and follow us on Facebook at Elite Speakers Prep Series, ESPS. And be sure to let us know if you have a book to sell or a story to tell.
We have our special guest, the infamous Funny, up in here with us today. How are you doing today, Mr. Fred?
I am doing indubitably wonderful.
Indubitably, that's a word I've never heard before.
It's my own word. It just means I'm feeling great.
Yeah, all right. Well, we want to thank you so much for joining us today,
Yes.
from coming from behind the pages, sharing your testimony, helping others heal in the world through your story, through your strength, how you got through and overcame the message that you'd like to share with our audience today. Shakitha's going to read a few words to let our audience know a little bit more about who you are and your background. So after that, we can go ahead and get started.
Pastor Fred is anointed, hilarious, and genuine. And those are just a few words to describe Pastor Fred. Pastor Fred is a child of God first. He's a preacher. He's a husband. He's a father. He's a comedian, a musician, and an author, a forthcoming author. His forthcoming book, titled It Was Necessary, will be making waves soon. The Pastor Fred's journey started as far back as the 1990s. He traveled with Carolyn Trailer, gospel artist, starting back in the 90s for many years. Later, he also formed his own group and performed with the likes of the Williams Brothers and the Keynotes. Many more. The group even appeared on the Bobby Jones Gospel Show, which was taped in Disneyland in Anaheim, California. He also had an opportunity to tour with songwriter Greg O'Quinn. He went on to work for various record labels until returning home to fulfill the call God had placed on his life. You can find him also now traveling and enjoying, performing his gospel, stand-up comedy, and he also has a recurring role on the Ricky Smiley Show to be heard weekly. And so again, Pastor Fred, we just thank you for joining us today. And we just look forward to hearing your awesome testimony.
But it is definitely a delight to be here with you young ladies and to share, and prayerfully, my life will be a light to someone else.
Awesome.
Thank you. We appreciate that. So, Pastor Fred, as hearing your bio, it sounds like you have an extensive history in entertainment. And starting out in the 90s, back in the day when you were touring in your band, what was that like for you?
Well, I started out on the Chitlin circuit. So, kind of, where the Jim Crow era started back in those days. But once I got into it, it was still pretty much the same, singing in those hot school buildings and in Mississippi and North Carolina. But we loved it, traveling. Those arenas would be full of people because, music has its way of soothing the savage beast, I guess you could say. But it was fun. What didn't make a whole lot of money. Had to have some struggles. But when you love what you do, you'll make the sacrifices. And I was young, but they took some chances on me, and I'm thankful that I was able to see the world.
Awesome. So you
That
got
is
to see the
awesome.
world at an early time when it was just flyers and phone calls being made. We didn't have social media back then.
Oh no, none of that. And thank God we didn't have it because some of the same craziness that goes on today was going on back then. So but you had to work hard to find out about it. But it was fun. We had a lot of fun. The culture was a different thing. We groups helped other groups, and and all that kind of thing. It wasn't a selfish culture then. We've changed a little bit with that now, but it was a lot of fun.
Wow.
That's what's up. What's up.
So can you tell us a little bit about, I know you got your stage name, the Pastor Fred, the real Pastor Fred. Can you tell us a little bit about how your stage name came about?
Well, God called me to the office of pastoralship over somewhere, I guess, almost 20 years ago. I've been preaching since '97. And I pastored my first church young. I guess I say young, in the Church of God in Christ, because they don't normally call young preachers to pastor. But I've pastored 2 churches, so the name pastor, the title pastor, I got it legitimately. I paid for it. Now, I'm not going to tell you I did it the best. I didn't make all the right decisions, because when you're under people in a certain era of time, like in the 70s and 80s, they had a lot more respect for pastors, and pastors operated in a different way. But so I tried to do it like that in my time, and it didn't work well for me. So the Lord gave me the grace to start back playing for church, because I play a little bit too, just enough to get through service, and then push me right back into ministering to people through laughter, which was definitely difficult, because when you come from a Pentecostal background, they shy from comedians. It's what jokes is lies. And so I was really, somewhat reluctant, but I really understand now that it's my assignment.
Wow, that is awesome. That's awesome.
Wow. So tell us a little something. I'm listening to you, and it sounds like you know how to take the bull by the horns when the going gets tough, and you make it happen. You're appearing in church. You're ministering to the sheep. Is there a message? First, I want to ask, what was your passion to get you into pastoring the people? What led you to that calling?
Well, I've always loved people. I've been a socialite since I was a kid. So talking to people and wanting people to be happy is something I've always, because I grew up in a house where we didn't have nothing. So we had to work, at making each other happy all the time. Our situation wasn't happy. My mother was crippled, and my daddy was an old cat, and so we had to make the best of our situation, and it wasn't always, I hadn't, that bull, sometimes he got away from me. I didn't get him by the horns all the time. And times got hard, things got hard, went through some really tough situations, but I learned later in life that, too much is given, much is required. And sometimes God puts a mantle over your life to be a blessing to somebody else. And that's what He's done with me, because I definitely got the scars.
Wow. And so I know that you've been having some health scares, or have had some in the past. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about, just the triumph through that, and, for anybody that may be experiencing some of the same things, how you've overcome that and how you are battling with it? Because right now, doing some awesome things, along with, continuing to minister and just what God has purposed you to do in the midst of what it is that you have going on in your life with your health.
Well, first thing I'll say about, health is I'm pretty blunt and direct. A lot of what we go through is our own fault. I'm a type 2 diabetic, and the sugar didn't just jump in my system. I put it in there. And You know, I've made some bad decisions over the years that my mama, she was in a wheelchair. She had a disease from childhood, but she would tell me little stuff all the time. Boy, this, that. As a kid, you don't think nothing about that. You don't think nothing, but now, after years of bad decisions, I've had to go through some things with diabetes, with wounds on my legs, almost losing a leg. Just by the grace of God, they were able to. Thank God for technology. They can do stuff now that wow, it's amazing. But yeah, but it's part of. It's helped make me who I am. It makes me very conscious about my everyday life, and how I live, and I ain't making the best decisions now. I ain't gonna lie. Me and the donut shop have a battle. So, but I do realize that in order for me to fulfill the assignment that's over my life, I have to think of that more than I think of myself. To get, because it's a battle. The Bible says the flesh is an enemy to God. So this flesh wants what it wants. We have to be disciplined, and I'm working on that one.
Wow.
So what you're working on, and you say you had to deal with all these health scares, and you figured out a way to kind of get it managed. What steps did you have to take in order to watch what you put in your mouth, watch the environments that you surround yourself with, so that you're not tempted to go against what you know is healthy for you?
Well, for me, I'll tell anybody, your support system, which for me is my daughter and my wife and my mom, my mother-in-law, you need help. And I think at some point, we talk about that with mental health and all these type of things nowadays. People don't want to get help. And sometimes you just got to realize you need some accountability. You need somebody to tell you. My daughter saw, commercials about diabetes, and she wants, Daddy, I don't want you to be like that. So I have to take into account of all of that. And my fans, they watch and they keep up. If you ever on social media, you can get everything from fans to trolls. Oh, they're all out there, and everybody's either people are looking for you to win or they're looking for you to lose. So you have to constantly, talk to yourself and monitor yourself. And then I have some real true friends that don't mind telling me the truth. They let me know, you bigger than you was last month. And I realized that I can't do stand-up comedy if I can't stand up. So I'm working to do
That's
that.
a good point there.
Oh yeah, you got to be able to stand up and do this job. So it is. It's a work. I'm not gonna lie to nobody. When I got out of the hospital, I went through depression. I went through suicidal thoughts. I had all of that. As a good Christian preacher. But it's just being real. It's real life stuff. But I'm here.
Yes.
Thank God you're here. And I heard you say dealing with the mental thoughts and the depression. That's one of the things that we like to highlight for our listeners, because it's important to know that, like you said, have a support system, someone that you can reach out to, hopefully someone close that really cares about your well-being, as well as persevering for yourself, sticking to your guns, changing your diet, and again, having that support system. For you, you said, you dealt with these, thoughts of, I don't know, were you feeling like you can't go on? What were the thoughts, and how did you're probably still going through the process, but how did you get through that process of deterring your mind, your focus on the thoughts of negativity and depression towards, I can do this, I am the king that I am. I can still stand up. I'm gonna stand up. What did you do to get to that point?
Well, I'll tell you, my wife is the gift God gave to me. You
Mm.
know, she's very extra introverted. I'm extroverted. You know, she don't do a whole lot of talking, but she made sure she let me know that, you know, you didn't come this far to quit. You know,
Mm.
I saw you minister in revivals and lay hands and pray for people, and
Yeah.
now you got to believe that for yourself. You
Yeah.
know,
Mm.
so she called me to the prophet. You know, boy, you got to do better than this.
That's
You
awesome.
know, so it pulled me up. You know, but being in that hospital, you know, nowhere to go and just laying there every day made me think about every bad thing that ever went on in my life. You know, being molested as a kid, you know, all those things, all those memories started coming back. And it's, you know,
Mm.
and you can't go nowhere because I couldn't even walk. So I'm just laying in that bed, you know, feeling like I'm in the twilight zone,
Mm.
you know. And so that's where those little crazy thoughts started popping up. And so that was a dark time in my life, you know, being in just those that month that I was in that one facility.
Wow.
But she was there every day. She probably missed 2 days, but she was there to just let me know that, hey, you're gonna be all right. You're coming out. You gotta come out. We got some bills to pay. You better get up and get out of here.
So you got some work to do, honey. That is amazing. Well, shout out to the mama pastor, the first lady. We appreciate you for encouraging your king to come up out that thing. Now, you said
Amen.
something that triggered me because I have been sexually molested as a child. And when you said that, it brought up, oh, well, you know, I went through the same thing. So as that being said, that's part of most of our audience, our listening audience problem or situation. They've been abused as a child, they've been abused in the home, they've been abused financially, physically, mentally, spiritually, and they're trying to come out. So we're here to share these stories of powerful people like yourself, leaders in the community, help share their testimony to help them heal and become stronger in the mind, look for the support, feed themselves that mental strength that you had to feed yourself, which it was fed to you through your wife. I appreciate you bringing that up. Is there anything that you can say to one of our listeners that are still trying to cope and may get triggered by being in a room for 30 days, life replaying back, and you're going, all these things happen to me? Is there any advice that you can give our audience in regards to the sexual abuse?
Well, when I was sexually abused as a kid, first of all, we didn't have that conversation. You
Mm.
know, I didn't even understand what was going on because my mom and dad, they were older. You know, they just didn't. We didn't have a birds and bees conversation. You know, at 7 and 8, 9 years old. I just, you know, whatever I knew, I had some old nasty uncles that taught me. But you know, but I wasn't up on what was happening. And then when I
Mm.
found out what had happened, you know, I started feeling all these other type of things. Am I homosexual now? Or is something wrong with me? Did I like it? Did I not like it? And I was watching Oprah probably, you know, 10 or 12 years ago, and Todd Bridges was telling his story. And his story was just like mine. It made so much sense. So I started sharing. I put it out on Facebook, and I started getting inboxes from other young preachers who had gone through this too. So what I will say to others is, don't be afraid to say something. You know,
Mm.
don't ever feel like nobody's going to listen or nobody's going to understand. Say something. You know, because if you don't say something, this may happen to somebody else. So don't ever feel like you can't share. Somebody cares, and I know if nobody else does, God cares,
Yes.
and you can share it with Him, and He will give you peace that passes all understanding.
Mm.
Yes.
I like that. I like that.
And I just love that, Pastor Fred. I think that I thank you for sharing, your testimony about, going through the molestation and all of that. Because like Tracy said, it's so many people that are in that same place. And that's another reason why we have developed this platform, because there's so many people that are not moving forward in life because they're still stuck because of their parents, because of the things that's happened to them, and because of things that they've been told that, you don't share or you don't talk about stuff like that. It's an embarrassment to the family, or for whatever reason, you just keep that to yourself. Or even some of the families, it happened to me. Okay, I'm fine. I didn't talk about it, so we just not going to talk about that. And it's just unspoken. And I think that it's so awesome that, that people are actually coming forward. And I love, that you are sharing with others, because you just don't know how many people that are being helped right now, as they're watching this video and this interview with you, that, wow, he spoke up on his, maybe I should speak up on mine. And so that they can get the healing that they need. Because I'm a therapist, and I know, as far as working with foster care kids, all of the families that I work with, sexual abuse is just crazy in the homes, and so many children are suffering through it, and they may have gotten foster care from a whole nother means or ways for something that had nothing to do with sexual abuse, but throughout their therapy, all of this other stuff start coming out. And so I just think that it's awesome, so that, because it's important for people to get that mental health help that they need. But I just thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
No problem. And I know sometimes in the church, we just pray about it, baby. Just pray about it. But it's nothing wrong with talking to somebody.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with talking to someone.
That's right. That's right. And, it's very important to touch on that initial pain. I say get to the root of the problem so that you can deal with the tree and then deal with the branches, which are the people that are around the situation that kind of turn the eye or kind of let it happen, said, hey, what goes on in the family in the house stays in the house. We're not going to put this out there. But what they do when they do that is they force that abuse up on someone else in the family. Because for one, we're not talking about it. Two, nobody's going to get the help that they really need. Three, the child that's been victimized is going to feel less than. And it's probably, when we don't deal with the pain, we go through all these little emotions. And then as an adult, we may become successful. We may become, that entrepreneur, that pastor, that therapist, but yet we're in pain. And that's why I created the Pain to Purpose program, to help those get to the root of the problem so that you will be not just a functioning adult, but a whole person. Because when we are abused, and I've done this before, we leave so much back there where it happened. So we don't take a lot of that young person, that vibrant, play with anybody. I never met a stranger, but when I was sexually abused, I kind of got more introverted and a little bit more skeptical of the people that I wanted to be around. So I think it's very important that we get to the depth of the pain and deal with the root of it, and not shun it away or think, oh, I didn't die from it, so I don't have to talk about it. No, we need to talk about this, because people are hurting. Grown people are hurting in silence, and they're living successful lives, but on the inside, they're dealing with a darkness that they feel like it's their fault. And I just want to put the message out there as one that has had that happen to them. It is not your fault. It's not even that person's fault, because the person that did it to you, they was hurt. Hurt people.
Yes.
So I just really commend you, Pastor Fred, for sharing that testimony, being very transparent for our male listeners to understand it's okay to go and talk to somebody.
And I'm glad I made it through it without.
Yes. Well, that's the God in you,
Yeah.
and by speaking it, that's where the strength comes from, Pastor Fred. Believe it or not, every time you speak, you build the muscle of encouragement and strength within yourself, and you pass that vibration on to others. So again, thank you. Because a lot of us are scared to talk about it. I spoke at a speaking engagement, the Reset Conference 2020, just last week. And I asked the question, how many of you have been sexually abused as a child? And maybe 3 people in the room raised their hand. But when I walked off the stage, 3 more people approached me. And then the following day, 4 people approached me and a male and said, it happened to me. I should have raised my hand. But thank you. Now I know I need to deal with that pain. So again, I really appreciate your transparency. It's going to help somebody, the masses basically, because we're reaching this platform out to the world, to everyone to hear these powerful testimonies and grow the strength that they need to continue to be the successful pastors, the successful therapists, the successful coaches in life, and not be walking around with all that pain.
Right.
Yes. And I know, Pastor Fred, that it was necessary. That we have experience. It was necessary. And I just know that that book that you got forthcoming that's on its way is going to tell it all about what we're talking about right now.
Oh, definitely. It was, the Bible speaks of it, some of the things that we go through, it seemed like it was designed to kill us, but it was really designed to make us who we are. You couldn't, I asked God, God, why would you allow me to go through some of the things that I went through? And, it's because somebody that you're speaking to doesn't know me like you do. And so that, that helps me to be able to convey that message without feeling any type of way. I know who I am. I'm very in tune with me. So I want people to understand that, even I talk to young men who, deal in homosexuality, and I have to let them know that you can't let, if somebody touched you or something happened to you, you can't let that develop into something else. You can be cut off. You can deal with it. You just have to before it comes, before it makes a whole nother turn in your life. But I'm thankful that God gives me the grace to be able to share it.
Wow, that is awesome. So, Pastor, we were talking a little bit earlier about the Ricky Smiley show, and you're able to be heard on the Ricky Smiley. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, social media is a wonder. It allows you, man, I know it has its bad things that people say, but it has blessed me in so many ways. And one of the ways is connecting with Ricky Smiley. And we connected about a year ago, just on Facebook Live. I'm, me being silly, making him laugh. And he was determined, for us to hook up, not knowing at the time that Tom was retiring and Ricky would be taking over Tom's job and moving back. So once all of that started working out and Ricky moved back here, he called me up. And, so at least twice a week, I'm doing church in 60 seconds. People say we stay in church too long, so we're doing 60 seconds. It's humorous yet inspirational.
Can you give us a little taste of what you do on Ricky Smiley Show? Because I done heard some things. Can you give our audience a taste of that?
Well, let's see. When we started out really playing on words, the theme may be love, and I may come on and start talking about love and this, that, and the other, and what love will do and what love. But when I close it out like a preacher. I close it out and take it out hard and heavy. And get that in 60 seconds. And somebody said, well, how did you do that? Well, when we were coming up as young Pentecostal preachers, they would have Friday night services where all the young preachers would get a chance to preach. Well, they wouldn't give us but 3 minutes apiece. So we had to learn. We didn't have time to get up and take you an underdog and so on and so forth. We had to get up and take out running. And so I knew how to do that. That was no problem to me. And people really enjoyed that. People enjoyed church in 60 seconds. I think some people listen to that 60 seconds and feel like they ain't got to go on Sunday. But y'all keep going. I don't stop going.
Well, we thank you, Pastor Fred. Yeah. We have enjoyed you immensely. Thank you so much for being on our platform, sharing your testimony, your wonderful, hilarious spirit. Y'all look for him 2-3 times a week on the Ricky Smiley Show right here in Dallas, Texas. Y'all heard him here first with Elite Speakers. I'm your co-founder, Tracy Brooks.
And I'm your co-founder, Shakitha Owens.
Much of what we've heard today, these aren't stories about what people necessarily have gone through, but are currently going through. These are stories that are being lived right now.
Yes.
And that's a part of, I believe, what we're doing is to let people know that you can yet still have hope in the midst of your storm. Life is about hills and valleys, ups and downs. I had my own share of hills and valleys, all the way from an early beginning of being molested as a kid by 3 different men, 2 men in my own family. But took advantage really of the situation because me and my mother, my dad worked all the time. If you're over 40, you had one of those dads that really didn't say I love you, but keeping the lights on meant I love you. Bringing some press ham and bologna home meant I love you. So he worked all the time, and I stayed home with my mother, who was in a wheelchair. And so I think my cousins took advantage of the situation. And I didn't know, we didn't talk about sex and stuff like that in my house as a kid. So whatever you found out through someone else. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times the miseducation of things can lead to something, because as a kid, you didn't know you were being abused. You come to find out later in life that what someone was doing to you that you just thought was regular was really abuse. Yep. And I wondered after 30 years, and a lot of people know my story, know that I came out about being molested after hearing Todd Bridges' story on Oprah, his story sounded so familiar to mine. He was being molested by his uncle, and there's certain things that happen to you, and they may feel good, and you don't know why they feel good to you. And when you get older, and you wonder why did that feel good, and I didn't say nothing, and all of these different type of emotions run all over you until you really try to figure out, where in the world am I at? Where's my headspace? And I know a lot of times we talk about that now, even in the African American community, about mental health. We don't talk about things that make us feel some type of way. It was early grade, and that's all we do. But there were some things that went on that I would have never shared with anybody, especially my father. My daddy was a man. If my daddy would have known that was happening to me as a kid, I would have been visiting him in penitentiary. He could not have went to sleep knowing that was happening to me and not do something. He wasn't going down there to talk to him. He was going to do something about it. So there's a lot of things that went on early in life, and I'll just say, I don't want to talk a whole lot, but now I realize, 45-year-old man, that the Lord allowed me to go through that to bless somebody else's life.
Yes.
So much is given, much is required.
Yes.
Your story, you didn't live your story just for you. And sometimes you wonder, I said, Lord, why would you allow the scars that I've had to go through. I would listen to a lady talk about being raped, and I began to question God in church. And I said, Lord, I sat there and I said, Lord, why would you allow a lady to be raped, knowing that she would be in ministry, or knowing that she would be raped? Why would you allow? He said, because I needed somebody to go through it.
Yes.
To help another somebody who doesn't know me the way you do.
Come on, God.
That's the reason I turned my face from my son to die on the cross for people who won't even love him. Would die, give his life up for people who today won't even serve him. So I put that on your back to go on, as the young lady shared earlier, going to go on Facebook at 30 and say I was molested, and to then get inboxes from preachers.
Yes.
Who said me too? Me too. Young ladies, me too. Who you know, we in our families were so scared to share the story because of being judged, and you don't know what your friends are gonna say. But to see, oh man, this guy was able to say it, now I can say it. So I do what I do. And as a comedian, I do it because I had to learn that the power of laughter is strong.
Come on now.
When you're able to laugh about it, you can heal from it.
Yes.
You can talk about things. I can stand, that stage is therapy for me.
Yes.
I can stand on that stage and talk about myself. I can talk about committing suicide on that stage and make people laugh about putting a sheet around my neck and I ain't got no neck. It's funny. You know, it's a serious situation, but it's my situation. And the Lord allows me to put my story out there, laugh about myself to help others heal.
Yes.
You know, if somebody else can get blessed by what we've gone through, that's all it's about.
Amen.
You know, because really heaven is my home anyway.
All right.
You know, if I die today, I'm good. You know, I believe God take care of my family, but you know, I'm going on to be with Him. So what I do right now on this earth every day is to help somebody else. And I enjoy it along the way. Don't get me wrong. I like nice fine things in life, you know, but I understand my purpose. I understand why I'm here. I don't let nobody make me feel bad about doing what I do or telling my story. Because you know a lot of people, oh, you better walk in silent. Oh, you better, because people don't want you to talk about what you're going through, but you gotta help somebody.
That's right.
Lord, amen.
It's our job to help somebody.
Yes.
So I don't care how nasty your story is. And I know everybody say, well, you know, you don't look like well, some of us do look like what we've been through. Some of these scars are evident, you know. But it's just cool, bro. It's cool. Some people need to know, some of the best cars I had was ragged and tore up. You know, but people saw them, man, they cut show us, but they get me where I need to go and they get me there on time.
Amen.
So I ride the way I ride, and I thank God for who I am, for every little scar that I've had to take. I ain't tripping. And for every journey, and I'll say this to anybody who's on a journey right now. You know, when it's God's plan, you just never know. It's very easy to try to hope and think that life is going to take you down this glorious pathway. Oh, but sometimes it's going to have some potholes. Some valleys, some hills, some setbacks. But you have to look at life in all ways that these are just minor setbacks for major comebacks.
Yes.
All the time. My every day is another comeback. Every day, if I get up slow, 2-3 years ago, I went in the hospital struggling with diabetes. And I say struggling because people die from diabetes for lack of discipline. You know, especially if you're type 2. You know, you walk around and you try to tell yourself to eat donuts when you know you can't. You know, you convince yourself you can make bad decisions when you need to make better decisions to live. So I made some bad decisions and had to suffer from them. I lost the mobility of my legs, you know, but it was necessary that I had to go through. The Bible said it was good for me that I was afflicted. So sometimes what you go through, you would never know God the way way you know him had you not gone through what you went through.
Amen.
So I thank God for my struggles. I thank God for my hills and my valleys. And I thank God for the journey he has me on. Prayerfully, who I am and what I've gone through will help somebody else along the way. That's all I got to say, y'all. Bye-bye.
Amen.
Thank you for sharing.